Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having a fantastic day, and without any further ado, let's jump right into it. You are going to notice a theme because this is about the 7th, I want to say maybe 8th time that this is happening in the course of the last 2 weeks. And I mean 2 weeks, a strong maximum. Everyone and their mother and their father and their grandparents is talking about where cryptocurrency prices are going. The strange, interesting part is that at the moment, the predictions are starting to blend into each other, as a lot of people are basically saying the exact same thing. And I mean the exact same thing is happening over and over. I am, abundantly happy that we're no longer getting all those people who were talking about Bitcoins going down to 12,000. This coin has to do this. Bitcoin has to fall back down to 14,000 before it could possibly move back up. That's kind of all completely gone. Because a lot of those people I told you were insane from the get-go when they were telling you months ago to sell your Bitcoin because they kept on saying the price was going down. But now the exact opposite is happening. The idea of where prices are going this year is already quite intense. And I mean from a factor of normally, I mean, it's basically everything that we've been talking about without having to reiterate it once again. That's been going on and what's expected for the rest of this year, the halving, interest rate cuts, printing money, stock market going back up, you name it. It's all there on the table. But this cycle feels very, very different, where like the bullishness is at a level that we normally would not see until the end of this year. If you've been here before, and I mean like for multiple cycles, not the 2021, that was a completely different thing entirely, but for other cycles before that, there's a general sense of energy that begins to pump into the market the year after the halving actually takes place. So 2016, there's some momentum. 2017 is the rip-roariness year. 2012, 2013, that kind of thing. Even if you want to say 2020 as well, but then 2021 is kind of like the, oh my gosh, like look at the market kind of year. The predictions for this year during the halving are unlike anything that I've ever seen before, to the point where, and I've seen it, don't worry. I'm also like lightly there as well. I see people on Twitter also being like a little bit skeptical because of the numbers that are being thrown out. And I also, not that I'm completely skeptical because anything is possible. However, the bullishness of a lot of the people within this space, and I mean like the billionaires who are constantly throwing out these numbers and these quotes, I sit there and I do wonder myself sometimes if they say these numbers because they're completely insane, not a joke, and or if they have some type of information about something that's happening, maybe charts that we haven't seen before, some other type of information that's going into their brains or to their systems or is being calculated, what have you. Because once again, they're all coming to the same generalized conclusion, and it's like it would be crazy if that happened, but the odds of are quite intensely maybe. Former Goldman Sachs executive, his name is Raoul Pal. We spoke about him about a good 2 or 3 weeks ago. Him, Max Kaiser, Mike Novogratz, and there's 2 other people. Can't remember their names right now. They're always in the news talking about prices and where things are going to go and how high they think prices will be. Raoul Pal recently said in a statement that he thinks Bitcoin's value is going to increase significantly over the course of this year. According to Pal, the cryptocurrency market is on the verge of a bull cycle that could last up to 4 years. The idea being, for those of you who missed it before, like once again, I understand the skepticism. I've been here in this market for a while. I completely understand it. The idea of a 4-year plus cycle, for those of you who missed some of the other videos, is that a lot of the analysts have been saying that we might be at the end of the speculative phase for the cryptocurrency space, because we know that all the institutions are in the market, and therefore we no longer have to speculate if people are going to be using Bitcoin. We now know that they will be, and therefore any other dips that we've seen before might not be as dramatic or even last as long, because once again, if you wait to buy the dip, BlackRock will. If BlackRock waits, Fidelity will buy it. If Fidelity waits, it's this chain of I have to buy some before they actually buy some, and therefore any dips that we might have would be completely scooped up and prices would begin to rise once again, as they're all trying to accumulate this asset that is becoming scarcer and scarcer. He says the cycle might last for up to 4 years, and that by the year 2025, we could see a $1 million Bitcoin. That is to say, at some point over the course of this year, prices would hit $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and then we'd see a $1 million Bitcoin by 2025. Powell's predictions are based on a long-term chart of Bitcoin's performance since 2013, which he describes as a perfect logarithmic trend. Powell believes the business cycle will peak by the end of 2025 and suggests a target for Bitcoin that could range from $500,000 to $1 million per coin. Drawing parallels with the 2016-2017 cycle, when digital asset prices rose due to the massive liquidity influx, Powell argues that the current bull cycle is in its early stages, obviously, and still has a long way to go. He, of course, talks about Bitcoin ETFs, the hottest topic on the planet right now, the impending Bitcoin halving as key indicators of this trend. Also directly behind him or next to him, Plan B was also very recently in the news, and was talking about where he foresees Bitcoin's price going, and I want to say even the near future, because this is pretty near. He said he thinks if everything goes to plan, if everything plays out, all the things we have been talking about the last couple of months, he thinks that Bitcoin could be over $100,000 by the end of 2024. His 2025 prediction is that, the 2025 movement up, the year after the halving, tends to be the more insanely heavier push. We normally do not see the previous all-time high until the end of the year of the halving. It's usually the next year after where prices completely go insane. So the predictions that we've been getting now, and I think the soonest one is is that by summer is that we'd have a $100,000 Bitcoin. Some say the end of this year, but others are saying, based off the information and the news, yada, 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 that we might have 100,000 by the summertime. He is predicting that if that happens, by 2025, we could reach $532,000 per coin. These numbers are, I think, I don't want to use the term scary. I think that doesn't really fit there, but I think it does something psychologically to a lot of the people who are brand new to the market, who are like looking for answers as to where things can go and exactly how high prices might be. I think at some point we will realistically, my opinion, hit a $500,000 Bitcoin, potentially even $1 million Bitcoin. But my skepticism does rise when we continuously hear that it's going to happen over the course of this cycle. I think at this point we probably don't have that much time left as far as we will see if this becomes a reality. I give it to around April or May, like a really strong April-May timeframe. If we're over $70,000, $75,000, $80,000 per Bitcoin, by summertime, 100 is probably nigh. By the end of the year, I could see 115, 120, something along those lines. And for whatever reason, the year after the halving has taken place, people completely lose their minds and begin buying even more as if they didn't see that the halving was actually taking place the year previous. So I expected before anywhere between a 160, 180, maybe a 200K Bitcoin. This seems, I think, in my opinion, far more believable. But I think a lot of the times the news that we get as well doesn't paint an accurate picture of exactly how much money is flowing through the market. I may even, tell all of you all the time, like, pay attention to the other people who aren't declaring that they're buying Bitcoin, these other wealthy people and also nations who are buying as well. So we know that there's not a lot left if you've watched the last year of videos of me going over it over and over. But to think 500,000 by next year, or even 1 million, is like an extreme push. We'd need a massive amount of, not even liquidity. I think that the liquidity is there. I think the money is there waiting in the background, but I can't imagine what kind of a push we'd need for something like that. Maybe some other significant news about accumulation from somewhere else on the planet. But yeah, at least they're optimistic, because they could also, on the other side of the coin, simply be like, we don't see a lot going on. Maybe we'll hit 55,000 by December. So it's nice to see, but it's more of a, okay, everyone's just throwing out really big numbers now. We'll see what ends up happening. That's the just about everyday news. And yeah, let's move on. Also, in very popular news, and I couldn't really find much to substantiate a lot of this right now. For those of you who haven't been paying attention or haven't seen, Shiba Inu is like the meme coin on the block. It is, I believe at this point, far more popular than Dogecoin. It is, we barely get any Dogecoin news anymore, barely, if ever. Shiba Inu, however, is in the news daily, other daily, and it usually revolves around the coins being burned. For whatever reason, when this project was made, they made it a little bit too memey and decided to make an enormous amount of coins, as opposed to simply only making 100 billion, 10 billion, or even, a trillion coins. I think they made 500 trillion coins, which doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind as to why they would do this. So a lot of the news that we've been getting, and the popularity news, has been the idea of burning coins. A lot of other projects also burn their coins. You have the Ethereums and the yada, yada, yadas. All these projects burn their coins in the background. They say that it's not to raise prices specifically, but it's meant to raise prices to have more scarcity. When it comes to the item, Shiba Inu, daily we get news that the burn rate on chain and on crypto exchanges has risen by 2,000%, 3,000%. It went up by this much, and it's always these really weird kind of numbers. But this one really takes the cake. So it says, as the Shibarium team, prepares to automate SHIB burns from this month onward. Crazy that we heard nothing about that. First time we're actually hearing about that. All we've been hearing is that burns are happening, not that they're going to be automating burns. Apparently the news is that the burn protocol that will be automated could destroy or burn 9.25 trillion tokens in January of this year. So remember, I don't even know where to begin with this one. The entire idea is that you need to burn more coins to raise the price and to raise interest in the entire project. There should not have been that many coins in the first place. Gotcha. We had propositions before from a number of people across multiple blockchains. We were talking about this 4 or 5 days ago, where a lot of people have been telling Ripple to burn their coins in escrow. They've been telling Charles Hoskinson to burn his coins and all these other things like that. These projects burn your coins so that we can make more money kinds of things. And I think one of the proposals was for the Shiba Inu developers or whatever to also burn a huge amount of their coins as well. I don't know where these 9.25 trillion coins would even be coming from, but alas. It says, since the Shiba Inu ecosystem team unveiled plans to automate the powered burns beginning this month, community members are eager to show that the number of SHIB that will be incinerated monthly via the portal. While some have argued that the Layer 2 blockchain could burn trillions of SHIB monthly, others speculate that the number of tokens taken out of circulation would not exceed billions. So this was incredibly popular news, and it's based off of apparently like speculation as to how much people think that the team could be willing to burn over the course of a monthly basis, as opposed to how much that they said that they're going to do, because no one has said an actual number. News. So cool. Shiba Inu, there's no Dogecoin news, like ever. I don't remember the last time that we actually had proper Dogecoin news, but everything that we have right now revolves around Shiba Inu. There's not even Terra Luna Classic news anymore. Very few altcoins are bringing out news. We had some IOTA news recently. There was the Cardano Ergo news. Altcoins don't have a lot of news anymore. There's just simply not a lot of updates, upgrades, or what's happening. So I guess if you burn tons of coins on your project every single day or every single week, you're going to make it into the news. But cool. We'll see what ends up happening, because this is like a very long saga at this point for this coin. But I think their ultimate goal is to get to 1 cent. I mean, you can definitely get there if you start burning trillions of coins. Just make sure to not make any new ones, because that just won't make any sense. That's the Shiba Inu news. And yeah, let's move on. Oh gosh, this is like a long chain. Vitalik Buterin, for some reason, has completely gone off on Twitter talking about everything that needs to be done or that he wants to do when it comes to Ethereum. Vitalik Buterin has apparently proposed a way to reduce the load on the Ethereum blockchain and make proof of stake significantly simpler and lighter. A lot of people don't care for the fact that Ethereum still only has, 15 transactions per second or something like that. And apparently everything that's apparently, I'm not a developer, everything happening on the chain is quite heavy and very slow, and therefore needs to be trimmed down a bit and or made better in some sort of way. Accordingly, Vitalik attracted the attention of the Ethereum community, especially with the proposal to reduce the load by decreasing the number of signatures that validators need to cast for the network to continue operating, which he suggested at the end of December. Ethereum is currently supporting a high number of validators. That's a good number. 895,000, that's decentralization. 895,000 validators on the network to achieve decentralization within the ecosystem and allow users to participate in the staking process. However, supporting so many validators in the process requires the network to process a large number of signatures. Geez Louise. It needs 28,000 signatures per block. Oh my gosh. Which brings significant technical disadvantages. Yeah, you need 28,000 signatures per transaction. Moreover, supporting this load requires various solution processes such as limiting network resilience, complex fork operations, and scaling signatures through zero-knowledge proofs or SNARKs. In addition, the minimum requirement of 32 Ether to become a validator is still too high for many people, thus not fully achieving the goal of user participation. Yeah, but I mean, that's also done for a very specific reason. We've gone over that before. That was a very big thing that a lot of people had a problem with when they first ended up announcing it. And also, it's one of those situations where, now hear me out here, a lot of people, especially newer people who get into the market, tend to be quite annoyed by the idea of 32 Ether, or even for other blockchains. Like if you want to have, like, Ether's not the only one. A lot of other blockchains, if you want to have like a significant like say and or weight within the market, you need to have a certain amount of coins. And I mentioned this before, like a lot of times we've heard that a company or an institution or whatever has a large amount of coins or has been accumulating over the course of the last couple of years. And I'm like, yeah, because when everyone else wasn't paying attention, when prices were down, when everyone else was terrified and afraid to get into the market, they were buying. At some point, Ethereum was 50 cents. It was 45 cents. It was 65 cents. It was $1. It was $1.50. It was $2.50. It was $8. It went, I think, at some point, even when it went up to 1,200 at some point, and it like, the market falls down. I think it fell back down to 80. A lot of people weren't buying at that point either. So you get to these situations where like people announce that you have to have X to be able to use a network or a function or something like that. And everyone goes, well, it's not for everyone. And it's like, well, you weren't buying when the price was super low. That's not Vitalik's fault or anyone else's fault. It's the same exact thing when it comes to like being able to like unstake your coins like other chains and stuff like that. The entire point is they know that people are terrified and are very fickle. So if something bad happens, or if something happens to the network, if everyone unstakes at the exact same time, everyone who's validating, you destroy the network. So you have to tell people you have to lock your coins in to continue validating transactions even if something wrong should happen, so that they can fix it and that the network doesn't completely collapse. Because if everyone unstakes at the exact same time, it's just all basic logic. But a lot of people like to get very annoyed and very flustered and very confused at a lot of these things. And it's like, well, it's like I've been saying for years. I said the same exact thing for XRP. And I mean, I said on many occasions in the past before when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm like, you could have bought a tenth of a Bitcoin for $100 in 2017. You could have also bought a tenth of a Bitcoin for $2,000 in 2017. How many people actually did that? And now you talk about a $500,000 Bitcoin, and you have people sitting there. I've heard it as well. So I've seen people being like, well, if it goes up to $500,000 or $1 million per coin, like I won't be buying anymore. And it's like, well, what's stopping you now? Like everyone keeps looking so forward into the future and going, well, I can't do it then. And it's like, do it now. What are you waiting for? Especially if you're in this market now. Like I don't understand this perception of only today exists. Like technically, logically, mathematically, cool, amazing. Wow, it does. But I mean, like no one looks ahead. No one looks 10 years. Like there's never a leap forward for a lot of these things. Anyway, I'm tired of ranting. The point is, he's been talking a lot about how he thinks the network could be fixed and or slimmed down, and how things could be made a lot better and all these other things. But it was like a really weird progression of a lot of stuff that's been happening. He shared a new vision for what he thinks could happen with Ethereum and the infrastructure, and how we need more layer 2s. And he thinks that layer 2s are the solution to be able to speed up Ethereum. What I think they're trying to do, and I hope that they don't, I sincerely hope that they don't. The idea for Bitcoin in general is to basically never really touch the chain, the main core chain, and kind of build around it. So that if you've watched not even my videos, like earlier proposals for Bitcoin, is that smaller transactions, things $500,000 and less. Yes, I said 500,000 and less would happen on Lightning and other layer 2 solutions. But if you're trying to send 14, 15, $100 million, you would do it on the main chain to be able to make sure that it's definitely secure, that it's definitely going to get there, what have you. And I keep seeing the Ethereum-like people talking about that they need more layer 2s, or layer 2s have to get better. I hope that they're not going to leave the Ethereum chain unchanged so that layer 2s can pick up all the slack and that the main core doesn't get touched as well. Like I want them to update the core. Like I want it to get faster. That was one of the original proposals for Ethereum, is that the main chain would be able to handle 100,000 to 1 million transactions per second. You'd have the other layers and other side chains around it, which would also be able to process as many as well, so that we'd get to 60 million transactions per second across all these different things. But there's far too much leaning on layer 2s as like the answer for Ethereum at the moment. Vitalik was also recently in the news as well, talking about that he thinks Ethereum should go back to the way that it was as far as like cypherpunks. If you've ever read any of the earlier books about the cryptocurrency space and Vitalik Buterin and like getting into the cryptocurrency market and like his original vision for what Ethereum should have been, it was also very similar to what Bitcoin was. He didn't, so the legend goes, Ethereum was pre-mined, but the story goes that Vitalik didn't want a pre-mine. The Ethereum Foundation had a CFO and a CEO. Vitalik Buterin said he didn't want a CEO or CFO. He just wanted to simply make a coin and release it into the world similar to Bitcoin. But he was working with a lot of people who were former people from Goldman Sachs, from these like higher institutions, former people he used to work with, and or new people in the SEC who understood that they had to do things like in a certain regulated way, et cetera, et cetera. And now he's saying that he wants it to go back to the way that it was before, the way that it used to be, more cypherpunk. And it's like, you can still do that, but I think at this point, a lot of the cryptocurrency space has kind of like fallen over itself to make sure that rich people are catered to the most. This is why we see so much hype around the Bitcoin ETFs, why we see so much institutional like news, we in essence do not need these people to be able to survive as a space. They do push us forward as far as like in 15 years to where prices would eventually be. But the entire idea of like proper decentralization, getting away from banks, having like proper DeFi platforms, decentralized exchanges, I think about all of that has gone out the window, like completely been washed away. So I think that it's cool to be like, hey, let's go back to where we were before. Let's make everything the way that it was. But for those of you who've never seen the website of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, it is around 400-500 companies and banks who have basically said that they are using or plan on using Ethereum in some sort of way to do their transactions, to put supply chains on, yada, yada, yada. You can't revert that because Ethereum would then also collapse. You can't simply say, well, you know what? We don't need you guys anymore. We're going to go back to exactly how things were before. And we are cypherpunk and we're going to have private transactions. They would all pull out. They'd move to another chain. The project's over. So yeah, that Vitalik Buterin, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the new year. He's been talking a lot about what he wants for Ethereum, where he thinks it's going to go, what he thinks that it needs, and how he thinks it should look after. But I think more or less a lot of that is basically out of his hands at this point because the money circling around the project and the hundreds of billions of dollars, I think won't allow anything else than what it currently is and what it's going to evolve into. I think any movement backwards is definitely not going to take place. That's the what Vitalik Buterin wants for Ethereum news. And yeah, let's move on. Also this wasn't, the word's not popular, but it was all over the place news. This news was meant to basically terrify you. Cryptocurrency lending platform Celsius, which filed for bankruptcy in 2022, recently tweeted plans to unstake some of their Ether holdings. In a series of tweets, Celsius stated that it would be recalling and rebalancing assets as part of its strategic preparations regarding potential future asset distributions. Basically, a lot of these companies that went bankrupt over the course of 2021, 2022, from the Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, Alameda, Genesis fallout, like I told you all before, years ago, they're all connected. They all know each other. They were all working with each other. So a lot of them were basically tied together. So when one fell, a lot of them also fell together in sequence. It was like one long rope that kept on pulling everyone down. The issue, air quote, is that these companies also owned cryptocurrencies. Surprise! That was also a surprise to a lot of people over the course of the last couple of years. We just had news a day or two ago that Tether owns Bitcoin, and people were like, what? You can't do that. You're Tether. And it's like, no, they own other coins. Like they diversify as much as humanly possible. So what happened is, as far as we know, is that a lot of these companies went belly up. They went bankrupt. They needed money. They didn't have the money. So they basically announced to their creditors, the people who they owed money to, okay, we'll sell some of our crypto to get it back to you. And this is why we saw that panic. What was it? I don't know. There was something last year. There was some kind of other panic with a couple of altcoins and Ethereum that they were going to flood the market with all these coins and destroy it. And it's like, nope. If you have a 50, 60, 70, $110 billion market cap and someone sells $35 million into the market, it's not going to move it. That's not at all how liquidity actually works. So the news now is that Celsius is going to be unstaking their Ether. when you're trying to unstake your Ether, because of the panic that people have in situations like this, they have a queue. They have a line you have to stand on when you're trying to unstake your coins so that people don't panic, unstake, and destroy the entire network. It is now at the point where Celsius is at the front of the queue to be able to take their money off of the network. The money that they're going to be having, it says they transferred 10,000 Ether to Coinbase, and this was the scary news. It was the news that they are selling some of their Ether because they have to, because they went bankrupt because of what happened in 2022, and therefore the money that they're trying to recuperate resulted in them having to sell some of their Ether. That's the news. That's the scary, terrifying news. But it's basically been everywhere. We also had news this was maybe 2 weeks ago, and I made sure not to talk about it on purpose. I think some of the people from Mt. Gox actually also got their money back. The cryptocurrency exchange, Magic the Gathering online exchange, not even belly up, that was hacked and destroyed about a decade ago, which is terrible to say out loud how quickly time is flying by. There was a lawyer who basically had all the coins, had all the money, not in his possession, but he was like in his custody, if you will. And it was his job to figure out all the people who had their money on the website and basically give them back their money. Part of the problem is that the company and the creditors were trying to give people back like a US dollar equivalent in what they had, i.e., well, back in 2014, you had $12,000 worth of Bitcoin. So here's $12,000. And people were like, no, you owe me my $123 million worth of Bitcoin because the price has gone up. So I think some people were even beginning to be repaid. But the news that we had for a very long time was that the moment that these people got repaid, they would sell their coins back onto the market and then Bitcoin would collapse to zero. And I was like, no, because we also had news in 2017, 2018, and 2019. A lot of very wealthy people around the world basically had contacted, I think, the lawyer and also some of these people and basically said, if you do decide to sell your coins, please sell them to us, so that they never actually hit the market. They never hit a cryptocurrency exchange. And guess what? Bitcoin's price didn't collapse. How scary all of that is all the time, that we keep getting news consistently that's meant to terrify you and make you think that the market is going to go back down to zero tomorrow. Like, you know, these people have a plan for everything, right? Like, they're not simply just waiting for a chance to be like, oh gosh, okay, they're getting their money back today. Let's cross our fingers. No, that's not how institutions or banks or governments work. Like, when it comes to like big money, we're talking about a market that is going to be worth tens of hundreds of trillions of dollars. There's no real room for error. And they've known that these people were going to get their money back for the better part of 5, 6, 7, and or 8 years. So yes, a lot of companies who went completely bankrupt are selling their cryptocurrencies to be able to recuperate funds. They did not have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of crypto. They had maybe like a couple million, and they're selling it off to be able to get their money back. And in many cases, it's also being sold OTC, over the counter. And even if it does hit Coinbase, it is $22 million and not $100 billion. So a lot of the scary news that always ends up there is not as scary as it's actually made to seem. It's just more of a way to like get people terrified, to make them, and I still believe, to get them to sell their coins, like we saw a number of years ago, where a lot of the news that I kept on telling you, like, I don't care for myself. I don't care for the term weak hands or diamond hands, but it's meant to shake the tree, to get the loose leaves that are off there to fall to the ground, so that people can pick up all your cryptocurrency at a much cheaper price, because we are once again in a market that people are anticipating is going to hit tens of trillions of dollars. And a lot of people who have been in the cryptocurrency space, are going to miss the train over the course of the next couple of years, because they do not see what's coming. Regardless of how many times that I say it or how many times people get annoyed that I keep saying it, a lot of you are going to miss out because you're not actually paying attention to what's really going on in the world. Just mathematically, like actually, like logically, like there's never 100% win rate across the entirety of these things. So as a lot of people kept on saying on Twitter the last couple of days as well, like, stop selling your coins to Blackrock. You know that they're buying. You know that these companies and institutions are buying. You're talking about the anticipation of a maybe $500,000 to $1 million Bitcoin next year. And if it doesn't happen then, it'll happen in 2028 or 2032. And then what? Who owns your coins then? Who goes on TV talking about, yeah, like we are now worth, $14.5 trillion. Pay attention to everything that's happening around you. A lot of it is made to make you terrified and afraid so that other people can accumulate your coins. This is one big game to a lot of these people. If you ever if in the future or even now you ever get a chance to hang out with people or know people who have like money, it is a game to them. It is a literal game. For you, it might be like something like really, oh my gosh, like this, this is big money. No. To wealthy people, this entire thing is one big monopoly game to them. They know that they've already won and they're trying to accumulate more. That's the Celsius is going to be unstaking their Ether, and it won't crash the market news. I think that's going to do it for this video. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See